Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srila Prabhupāda-līlāmṛta, Volume 2, Introduction. One day in June of 1977, Srila Prabhupada sat in his garden at Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, India, conversing with a few devotees. Although for months he had been manifesting external symptoms of ill health, he still enjoyed sitting here with his disciples while aromatic jasmine blossoms scented the air and the fountain gently splashed. He had been discussing various topics, including how modern godless civilization was a society of two-legged animals. Speaking of life in India as he had known it as a child, he described a simpler way of living and he began recalling some of his childhood experiences. At his birth, he said, an astrologer had predicted that at age 70 he would leave India and establish many temples. Prabhupada said he hadn't understood this prediction for many years, but that by Krishna's grace he had gone to America at age of 70 to execute the order of his spiritual master. In America, the result of his preaching had given him great hope and he had obtained permanent residence there, expecting not to return to India. One of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, President uh, Tamal Krishna Goswami spoke up. Do you regret having come back to India? No, Srila Prabhupada replied. My plan was to stay in America, but Krishna's plan was different. Therefore, when I was coming back, I was speaking to Dwarakadisha, is Krishna deity in ISKCON Los Angeles temple. I said to Dwarakadisha, I came here to preach. I don't know why you are dragging me back. So I was unhappy to leave, but Krishna had his plan. Srila Prabhupada went on to say that by following Krishna's plan of leaving Vrindavan and then after preaching in America coming back to Vrindavan, he had gained the most wonderful temple, the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. You always came out victorious, Tamal Krishna said. I have never seen you defeated. In Bombay, for example, it seemed to be an impossible situation. Yes, no one was interested, said Srila Prabhupada. Who could see that such a big project would come up? Only you could see that, said Tamal Krishna. You and Radha Rasavihari, the Krishna deity at ISKCON Bombay temple. But still I was determined. They should write a book about that, said Tamal Krishna. It is history, Srila Prabhupada added. That is worth writing about Mayapur also. That is worth writing, Mayapur also. The first part of this volume of Srila Prabhupada-līlāmṛta is an attempt to fulfill Prabhupada's desire that a book be written about the struggles undergone for establishing a wonderful temple for Krishna in Bombay, as well as Mayapur and Vrindavan. It is a history worth writing about. This history is worth telling not only to Srila Prabhupada's intimate followers but to the whole world. After all, it is for the benefit of people everywhere that Srila Prabhupada struggled against great obstacles to establish these three important ISKCON temples in Bombay, in Vrindavan, and in Mayapur. For Srila Prabhupada, temple meant not only a building but a center of highest learning and institution of teaching the science of God. He saw that people were mad after material progress with little interest in understanding their spiritual identity. They identified themselves with the material body, centers of spiritual learning and culture, therefore were of prime importance in liberating people from their bodily identification. Srila Prabhupada's plan had been to transplant the seedlings of India's spirituality in the West and then to return the healthy plant to its native soil, where the teachings of Lord Chaitanya had become confused by um, person mis- mis- persons misrepresenting Vedic culture. In reawakening India's own culture, Srila Prabhupada wanted established especially that there be wonderful temples of Krishna consciousness, temples for everyone's benefit. This story is worth telling that through it we learn of the mind and actions of a pure devotee of the Lord. We cannot expect to imitate such a great empowered devotee as Srila Prabhupada, but we can read about his activities in this volume and that will inspire us and show us how, by persistence, hard work, and patience, we can become successful in our attempts to regain our forgotten Krishna consciousness and become pure devotees of the Lord. This history is worth writing about also because to hear of Srila Prabhupada's activities is naturally very relishable. Hearing about the activities of Lord Krishna's pure devotee is as relishable and purifying as hearing about Lord Krishna himself. Simply by reading and appreciating Srila Prabhupada-līlāmṛta, we will purify our hearts and advance in spiritual enlightenment. Although the first part of this volume focuses primarily on Srila Prabhupada's establishing of three major temples in India, these chapters also describe his varied activities as a world traveling leader of his Burgoyne's Burgeoning Burgoyning International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada wanted the Krishna consciousness movement on every continent, in every city, in every town and village. So, although Srila Prabhupada's establishing of his three main Indian centers provides the theme, the reader will also find Srila Prabhupada actively representing Lord Krishna and the disciplic succession in Los Angeles, Nairobi, New York, Melbourne, Paris, all over the world. The second part of this volume begins with a biographical synopsis spanning 1970 to 1975, highlighting two major activities of Srila Prabhupada: book production and book distribution. Meanwhile, however, Srila Prabhupada was active in many other ways, and specifically, he divided his time between America and India. In America, where Srila Prabhupada had the most disciples, the most temples, and the major front for his book distribution campaign, he taught and preached. Because his spiritual master had ordered him specifically to preach to English-speaking world, he had begun his movement in America. He wrote in English and generally preferred to speak in English, even when in his own country before thousands of Indians. Srila Prabhupada's preaching throughout America, especially in these later years, was mostly for the benefit of his disciples. He wanted to put the Krishna consciousness movement into their hands now that his movement in US had strength and maturity. This is your country. He would tell his disciples, and you know best how to preach here. But just to guide them and inspire them, he was lecturing, talking with representatives and university professors, purchasing properties, and simply being with his disciples as their leader, field commander, and worshipable master. In India, Srila Prabhupada continued managing ISKCON on a practical daily basis, without his scrutiny in all matters of practical affairs, from financial to legal, from cleaning to cooking, from receiving guests to hiring constructing construction works. Things would not be done properly. His disciples would be cheated, and ISKCON would not be appreciated as pure Vedic Dharma. With great difficulty, he had begun his three major ISKCON centers in Bombay, Vrindavan, and Mayapur, and he had laid a foundation of bold, ambitious plans. But that would not be sufficient. ISKCON in India had not yet developed to the point where Prabhupada could say, as he had said to his disciples in America, now it's in your hands. Now it was in his hands, and to accomplish his goal, he assumed his feature of exacting taskmaster, the relentlessly sharp sighted temple manager. That was his means. His end was to have his disciples actually take the management into their hands, but they would have to manage his way. As he would sometimes say to his leaders, do as I am doing. That lesson, once learned, would establish an ISKCON that would flourish even if he relinquished the uh, eh, Rhines and ISKCON that would survive even after his passing away. But Prabhupada's direct guidance was still required, and not only for showing his disciples how to manage ISKCON in India or how to preach in America, but also for protecting his society from internal strife and schisms. schisms. And in this volume, we see Srila Prabhupada expertly unify ISKCON during a trial of divisive party spirit. Srila Prabhupada's life followed rhythm, touring, preaching, and managing inters- interspersed with periods of writing and translating. The two types of activities were not always compatible. However, since one was fast paced and vigorously outgoing, and the other intensely meditative, but both were necessary. In fact, one of Prabhupada's goal in traveling throughout the world and painstakingly travel his ISKCON leaders was to ultimately stop traveling stop managing, and just sit in one place and write. But until such time, he was prepared to race shortly after midnight wherever he was and write. Occasionally, however, he got a special opportunity, as in Hawaii in summer of 1976, where for a month his ISKCON management stopped and his writing progressed at more than double the usual pace. But such quiet periods were the exception. As Srila Prabhupada said, not in this lifetime. Still, Srila Prabhupada didn't uh, begrudged his burden of touring and managing. He relished the struggle. In June of 1976, when his health was poor and his disciples pleaded with him to rest for several months, he was unmoved. And when they persisted, he affirmed, I want the benediction to go on fighting for Krishna, just like Arjuna. Srila Prabhupada's fighting, his writing, his traveling back and forth between two worlds, East and West, was for uniting both those worlds in Krishna consciousness. He saw himself as transplanting Vedic culture from East to West, an amazing feat in itself. But he was also reviving Vedic culture in India. His plan to unite the East's Krishna conscious culture with the West prosperity and technological advancement, and thus benefit the entire world. India, due to poverty, was lame, and America, due to spiritual ignorance, was blind. Alone, they were incomplete. But if the two cooperated, the blind carrying the layman on his shoulders, the blind guided by the lame, then both could progress happily. Prabhupada was also uniting two worlds in yet another way. He was uniting the material world with the spiritual. Some 500 years before, Srila Rupa Goswami has enunciated the philosophy that the entire material world, being an emanation from Lord Krishna, is non different from him, and when the material world is linked with Krishna in devotional service, it regains its spiritual nature. Srila Prabhupada fully embodied that principle, utilizing the latest technological achievements in transportation and communication, striving to spiritualize the entire material world. As Srila Prabhupada had written in his Srimad Bhagavatam purports, therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of arts, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, etc., may be used in glorifying the Lord. The fiction writers, poets, and celebrated literatures are generally engaged in writing of sensuous subjects, but if they turn toward the sign service of the Lord, they can describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Similarly, science and philosophy should be should also be applied in the service of Lord. Similarly, all other branches of knowledge should always be engaged in the uh, service of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada was specifically empowered to teach the entire world how, by linking everything with Krishna through devotional service, they could enjoy the essence of spiritual world even in this life. This Prabhupada said was the one switch that will bring everything everywhere. I read again then. Srila Prabhupada was specifically empowered to teach the entire world how, by linking everything with Krishna through devotional service, they could enjoy the essence of the spiritual world even in this life. This Prabhupada said was the one switch that will bring everything everywhere. This final volume of Srila Prabhupada-līlāmṛta concludes with Srila Prabhupada's last year on earth, 1977. At the beginning of the year, he heard news of a conspiracy against his movement in the West, the so called anti cult movement. He gave fearless direction to his devotees how to combat the bigotry, compared it to the attacks Krishna himself had to face from the Asuras, and was pleased to hear of an important New York State Court decision completely vindicating the Krishna consciousness movement from charges of brainwashing. The last chapter recounts Srila Prabhupada's final lessons as he spent his last days in his Vrindavan residence. Abstaining from food in his last months, he taught exemplary lessons in how a human being should ready himself to leave his body and return to the eternal spiritual world by always chanting and hearing about Lord Krishna, and by allowing his disciples to associate intimately with him in these last days. He taught final instructions in love, a love that endures beyond death. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Okay, so that's the introduction, and I would like to kind of also, we have some time, read through. Yeah, so this we are talking about chapter 37 to 65. Yeah, so close to 32 chapters. Ready? It's about the land is yours. No one listens to a poor man. I will build a wonderful temple for you around the world, but absorbed in Bombay. The battle for Bombay, developing Mayapur, beginning the temple of Krishna Balaram. Let there be a temple. Please distribute books. Preaching to America Part 1, Preaching to America Part 2, at home in India, unifying ISKCON, the layman and the blind man, chant Hare Krishna and fight. I have done my part. Krishna's great soldier, at home in Vrindavan, the final lesson, return to America, opening a temple in Los Angeles, a visit to Boston, a summer in Montreal, Seattle, 108 rose bushes, preaching in Germany, Latin America, Zurich, and New York, a world tour. Yeah, I hope this gives a good glimpse what we are up to in the coming weeks. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Anyone want to add or share your feelings?
Yes,
We finished
Prabhuji.
one part. Volume.
Yeah, Prabhuji, it looks while you were going through introduction and even the headings of each of the chapter to follow. It looks, yeah, we have come a journey with Prabhupada, and still one exciting part is left to see how finally things are shaping up. And
Yeah.
in a way, this introduction was also not just the introduction. It was also giving message at each of the point, like while there was Satsarup Maharaj was speaking about the last chapters and saying
Mm-hmm.
that how in these chapter what he have must have described would be how Prabhupada, after teaching them everything, how he is teaching them to be in love beyond death. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was nice to you that even the introductions are written in such a way that, yeah, it also has a
Yeah.
lot of message in it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know whether, I mean, typically Indians don't read introductions or foreword or preface, but
Hmm.
typically one who wants to save time, whether we read all the book or not, they go through the first page. And yeah,
Yes.
as you very nicely said, His Holiness Satsvarupa Goswami Maharaj has very nicely outlined the content of the book. Not only what is the content, but also what is the essence of the content. And as disciples of his disciples, we can see how we can um, what we should do. Yeah,
Yeah.
from these.
And the other thought also, Prabhuji, while you were reading, it was going in my mind that still each and every word we feel it is so relevant. And this I feel in context of everything. Even when I read Guru Maharaj books also.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one of the time when I was translating the other book, I could see what he was saying at the end also was what he was saying while writing those books, which is way before this time. So
Mm-hmm.
even for us also, like, none of us were born in this era. Even
Mm-hmm.
after we all are born after Prabhupada disappearance, but each and every word resounds so well for all
Yeah,
of us. And we all
yeah,
are in different age. Mm, age and age group and different situations of our life circumstances, but everything is valid throughout for each one of us.
Yeah, yeah. So that's also very nice. And when we were reading this, right, I was feeling like how Prabhupada has given lot of energy for three temples, Bombay,
Mhm.
Vrindavan, Mayapur. And then when I was reading through that, then I could see the spirit of Kadamkaran Maharaj, how he took up. Yeah. So unless it is so dear to him that he want to serve Prabhupada, yeah, to take such
Yeah.
a huge risk and be a temple manager, like, yeah, Prabhupada had to do it. And of course, in case of
Mm.
Prabhupada, everyone will listen. But in case of Maharaj, it means he has, as a non-sannyasi, to talk to sannyas level people in
Mm.
India, to Indian background, knowing, a foreign body, and
Mm.
a junior by age, and also
Mm.
so many ways. Yeah, I was thinking if someone is writing such a book, yeah, it would plug into this Leelamrit. So he created
Yes.
his own Leelamrit.
Yes, Prabhuji, true. So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Dankali
How
Mata.
many years did it took to build the temples in US, Prabhuji? Prabhupada?
These temples we saw it, right? So these temples
Yeah,
came up in 70s. Yeah,
70s.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But of course, afterwards, then there is also one big temple. Yeah, even I think Govind Prabhu was also mentioning, na? Where was it?
New York, New Jersey,
Seattle or New Jersey?
Brindavan, Brindavan,
New Vrindavan.
New Brindavan.
Yeah.
Oh,
And where your brother is close to also this Uta. There is also this
mm,
desert where there was
Columbus.
also a big, yeah, there's a big temple that came.
Mm-hmm,
So, and I don't remember the exact location.
mm-hmm,
There is also in Boston, I think. I mean, I haven't gone till now,
mm-hmm.
so I don't know much about it. But yeah, these temples, mm, yeah, came up from scratch. In one case where mm, Hridayananda Maharaj, yeah, was taking care. Kirtanananda Maharaj was taking care. So big projects. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we will read more. That's what I think. There were a few chapters mentioning about how things got in the New York, in Paris, in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one question like in one of the paragraph, it said like, as Srila Prabhupada said, not in this lifetime. I'm not able to understand the context, Prabhuji. Yeah. Before that, it says like in Hawaii in the summer of 1976, 1 month he didn't do ISKCON management, and then his writing progressed more than double. But such quiet periods were exception, as Srila Prabhupada said, not in this lifetime.
You're talking about
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, not
this.
in this lifetime, a little bit down, Prabhuji. I think little bit down, Prabhuji.
Yep.
Yes,
Right.
yes, Prabhuji. There, exactly.
Let's read again then. But until such time, he was prepared to rise shortly after the midnight. Before occasionally, however, he got a special opportunity. But such quiet periods were the exception. As Srila Prabhupada said, not in this lifetime. So, which means for him in this lifetime, there is no gap of such a
Yeah.
full-fledged writing.
Oh,
That's what he was referring here.
okay. Because he
So
needs
that's
to
that's
manage.
like a bonus that he never thought of.
Okay, very nice.
It's not like he was not like of thinking of this, that okay, sit in one holy place, sit there and write for days together. mm, without any other services and any other management and all those things. So I said that's not what is happening. So Krishna is engaging him in different ways other than
Yes.
not on in addition to these.
Yes, Prabhuji. Touring, preaching, and managing Interpedia
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
writing and translation. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you. So you're scrutinizingly hearing, huh? I'm just going with the flow.
Yes, Prabhuji. Because Prabhupada's thing is very important. That too on a Friday evening when I always tell we kind of read that need rejuvenation, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, I mean, this Shakti Avesh Avatar means power, right? And this power is still there in his books, in his own leelas when we are hearing.
Yes,
We will imbibe some spirit. Okay. Otherwise, we may think our life is routine life like any others. Do that, do this, get up and go to work, sleep. That's it. But we see that, oh, we have, this mafia, right? What do they do? Hmm? Mm, They'll not say what they do, but they do a lot, right?
absolutely, Prabhuji. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, Prabhupada, in case of Prabhupada, yeah, he had whole night. Usually we think it's time for taking rest, yeah, but Prabhupada had a mafia program of,
Yeah.
writing all these things, which also affects at in a large scale, reaching out to so many people.
Absolutely, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay, then thank you so much for joining, and let's meet tomorrow with Bhagavatam. What was the chapter? Forgot. Chapter 3 or 2? No, I mean, I'm talking about not those, right? So we are talking about fourth canto. So we already finished those. I think in the 9th or 10th. Anyway, we'll figure it out. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हिज होलीनेस सतस्वरूप गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंदी। हरि 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 बोल। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.